on airlines to get them safely, easily, and efficiently to life's most important moments. Weddings, funerals, the birth of children and grandchildren, professional opportunities, job interviews, meeting with clients, old or new, and even in some cases, daily commutes. Air travel has become and genuinely is essential to our lives. Since deregulation of the airline industry began in 1978, and increasingly in the years that followed from that, competition has driven affordability, innovation, and improved service in countless respects within the industry. For decades, rivalry among carriers allowed for consumer choice, and it kept fares within reach. Yet in recent years, there has been significant consolidation in the industry. This has reshaped, in some ways, the U.S. airline market, reducing the number of total competitors. Today, there are just 4 major carriers, American, Delta, United, and Southwest, that control over 80% of U.S. domestic air travel. And that's a change from not too many decades ago when there were more players than that, far less market concentration. Legacy carriers have invested in creating a hub and spoke model. The model routes passengers through central airports more efficiently, and that has the effect of lowering maintenance costs, increasing connectivity, and otherwise increasing the beneficial network effects available to a larger airline. The hub system has also created some dominant positions, particularly at a few key airports. In Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Charlotte, and Newark, for example, a single airline controls between 70 and 80% of passenger traffic. In Salt Lake City, St. Louis, and Minneapolis, one carrier accounts for roughly 60% of passenger traffic. Even at airports with far less concentrated market shares, carriers often don't compete on the same routes, leaving travelers effectively with only one direct option for a specific destination. Some of this, of course, is going to happen in any system that involves as many cities, as many places where people might want to travel as others. Nonetheless, we see the trend as what it is, a trend that is perhaps resulting in less competition within the industry than we've seen at times in the past. This concentration is, at least in part, the result of a wave of mergers. Delta Northwest, then United, Continental, and Southwest AirTran. The Obama administration initially challenged the American-U.S. Airways merger, but it reached a settlement, one that seemingly failed to address the broader nationwide concerns alleged in the complaint in that case. Most recently, the Biden administration blocked the proposed JetBlue Spirit merger, ostensibly to preserve Spirit as an ultra-low-cost competitor. In that case, the Department of Justice took an acrobatic distortion and contortion of the market and overlooked a lot of the real-world dynamics. The merger likely would have enhanced competition by creating a more financially stable airline with a larger network, one that could provide additional competition to the legacy carriers. This would have enabled more competition with these legacy carriers nationwide. And one thing we know about competition, it tends to bring down prices and it tends to result in improvements to quality as different competitors try to compete for the money of the passengers they want to carry. Yet after the merger was blocked, Spirit ended up filing for bankruptcy, as many predicted. This development raises key questions about enforcement and our antitrust framework, such as how a market ought to be defined and whether the failing firm defense captures real-world dynamics and incentives, and how this ought to frame how we think about antitrust law and the manner in which it's enforced moving forward. Low-cost carriers and ultra-low-cost carriers have been an important competitive constraint on pricing, of course. There's a lot that they add to the picture. When one of these airlines enters a market, average fares typically drop, at least for the affected routes. But those competitive forces are facing financial headwinds. Spirit is in bankruptcy. Southwest is abandoning, in some ways, the very business model that made Southwest the disruptor that it's been, eliminating free checked bags and charging for seat assignments, moving closer to the legacy carrier model. JetBlue's partnership with American and the proposed merger with Spirit were blocked. JetBlue is now seeking a collaboration with United in order to survive. Broader economic conditions also present challenges. Aircraft supply shortages, engine repair delays, and rising labor costs all contribute and weighing on the overall competitive dynamic in the industry. Additionally, with fewer competitors than we've had in the past, the remaining airlines can coordinate on capacity more easily. This limits seat growth across the industry. Limited slots and limited gates also tend to reinforce those same constraints. So do shortages of air traffic controllers and an antiquated air traffic control system. The U.S. Department of Transportation is modernizing our air traffic control system. They're streamlining FAA hiring and raising the pay that they offer to controllers. And I want to commend Secretary Duffy at the Department of Transportation for his leadership in addressing these challenges and working towards solutions to each of them. The reforms are essential, not just for safety and reliability, but also for creating the capacity that we need in order to allow for an increase in competition. Today's hearing is one that I hope will be an important first step in examining competition issues as we face them in the airline industry. Americans deserve the benefits of competition, especially when they fly, in the form of lower fares, better service, and more choices. And in advance, I want to thank each of our witnesses for coming today. I look forward to their insights. Now we're going to turn to my friend and colleague, the ranking Democrat on the committee,